Good morning. We're in John chapter 5. It's a pretty famous story about Jesus. I'm going to tell the first part of the story. We're going to read chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. Sometime later, Jesus went to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. There was in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethsaida, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, and one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he'd been in this condition for a long time, he asked, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. When I'm trying to get in, somebody else goes down ahead of me." So what we learn here is that a tradition had been built up that this pool had healing powers, and that as the water was stirred, apparently God or angels were stirring it, and the first person to go into the pool could be healed of their condition. And so a great number of people with various maladies would come and wait there to see if they could enter the pool and be healed. And this one here is waiting as well. And we also just note really quickly that we see here that Jesus is walking by, and that Jesus is actually not doing a mass healing ministry here. He's just walking in. He noticed this one man. It just reminds us that Jesus did not come primarily to deal with physical ailments, that his ministry was far larger than that. He was going to address the whole person, the condition of whole persons. That would, of course, include our physical condition, but moreover, our sinful condition, our position in sin that allowed us to not walk with God in his kingdom. And so that's what Jesus is addressing. But he's walking by, he stops, he sees this man, he obviously inquires, he finds out he's been an invalid, he's been in this condition for 38 years, and he asks this really interesting question: do you want to get well? And the response is equally interesting. He says, I have no one to help me. Notice that he never, ever addresses Jesus' question and says yes. In fact, he is saying something tantamount to, I don't know, is it a victim narrative of some sort? There's nothing I can do. I'm going to be in this condition forever because I have no one to help me. And I don't know what exactly Jesus is asking here. We might get a clue next time when we see the back half of the story, but he does actually ask him an intentional question, looking straight into his soul and saying, do you want to get well? And even though I do believe this is a historical moment and Jesus is doing a physical miracle here, I do think the question kind of echoes out into all of humankind. We find ourselves in the conditions we find ourselves in, and oftentimes, if Jesus were to come to us to address those conditions, addictions, habits, patterns, rebelliousness, anger, and he were to say to us, do you want to get well? It's a real question. Do we want to walk out of those broken conditions that we've been in for a long time and that have actually become quite comfortable to us? Or do we want to remain in that condition? It makes me think deeply about, where's Jesus inviting me into healing and I am resisting him? Something to think about. Grace and peace to you.